course, this is a continued coverage of live events that are taking place in Kabarak, Nakuru County, as the country prepares to lay to rest the second president of the Republic of Kenya, Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. And for now, we want to have a discussion regarding his legacy. The pictures that you're currently seeing are live from Kabarak University, but I will be engaging Bishop James Murunga, who is the Evangelical Association of, from the Evangelical Association of Kenya, rather, as well as Dr. Matsanga, David Matsanga, who is the chair for the Pan-African Forum. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
Of course, the pictures that you're seeing are just live from Kabarak University. I think there's the distribution of, the soda and bread for the mourners who are expected at this particular funeral. Over 30,000 of them expected to attend this particular, burial ceremony for the second president of the Republic of Kenya. When we think about Moi, teacher, professor of politics, Pan-Africanist, statesman, Dr. Matsanga, what would you say about him?
He was one person fit all. He fitted in all categories. You go to sports, you go to music, you go to politics, you go to governance, and you go to foreign policy of Kenya. I picked several things out of Moi for the last 24 years, because some of us were here, we saw it. I actually came for the burial of President, the late Kenyatta. My father put me on a bus, OTC. By then, OTC was on time, not like the OTC we see today. So we came down in Nairobi, and from there, there was a bit of scuffle, but Moi stood up. On Pan-Africanism, especially, he helped to liberate most parts of Southern Africa. Although Kenya was not directly involved, it played a part in airlifting some of the ANC fighters, those in Zimbabwe, those in Mozambique. That's why you find Moi's name in Mozambique with Kiplagat was outstanding, because he helped to get the Renamo peace process working. So he was a Pan-African, a great guy. For me, I have learned a lot from him. You don't play with Kenya's foreign policy when Moi was alive. You don't. Kenya was respected. When he said he pulled out of the Commonwealth, pulled out of the Olympics, the whole world followed. Some people did not go for the Olympics, for those sports. Is a Kenyan, foreign exchange earner. Many of the people who wanted to go on the run, he told them, you go there, you don't come back. And he put up a Pan-African spirit for us in Africa. Most of us in our countries, in Uganda and Rwanda, Burundi, Sudan, we owe him.
You owe him. Bishop, from your perspective as religious leaders, what would you say about the legacy of the late retired president?
A highly religious man, a man who feared God and had a really commitment to worship and honoring God. Very principled leader who focused on what he felt that he needed to undertake. A man who was an environmentalist, and we see him working around the country in developmental issues and safeguarding the environment. The girl child really benefited a lot from his time of leadership, where he sponsored many girls' schools around the country. So an educationalist, coming from a teacher background, I believe it influenced a lot, his love for education. And like my brother says, he's a man who cut across the board. And we see his leadership, excelling in many aspects.
The foundation that he set, when it comes to education, and you look at our education system today, would you say it is where he would have wanted it to be?
I tend to believe that it could have been different, probably, especially, talking about values, love, peace, and unity being his the Nyayo philosophy. I think he was such a man who loved values and principles. And I tend to believe that probably our education system would be even more value-based today than if he was still the president, for example. Yeah.
What are your thoughts? 844-763, now we are talking about CBC.
You remember many Ugandan teachers came here to teach because the education system was very good. And I believe one of them must have taught you in the school somewhere. they went this way to teach because Kenya's education system was fantastic. He put up, he had the passion for education. And he had the passion, the bishop has touched something of religion.
Yes.
You know, you liked going to church during Moi's days.
Why is that?
There was something. I'm honest. The bishop is here today, he will correct me. There was something to go. There is something to love in church. Today, the churches, the way things are, bishop, we need something. You see, that's why the society even criticizes the bread that is being given, yet it is the only effective to feed 40,000 people.
Yes.
That's why there's something that Moi inspired people to do as far as the religion was concerned. He was always on time. He was always praying somewhere, somehow in Kenya, wherever he was. So that inspired many of the Kenyans at that time, despite the some of the small difficulties.
Yes.
Just as Jesus had several difficulties on the way from the Capernaum up to Jericho, there were several. He went to church. They went to church. We prayed. In fact, at that time, the only solace, I was here. So nobody will tell you that I did not see what was going on here. I was grown up, full grown up. The only solace was Sunday in All Saints Church. There was a very powerful canon. He later on fell out with His Excellency, the President, Arap Moi, because his sermons were very good. And the people could go to that church. But nowadays, people are not going to church fully to listen to the bishop.
Bishop, I know you want
And
to say
they
something.
are going to church to find difficulties with the bishop. You can see with the social media that has come, some of them go to observe what Moi had instilled, ethics in religion. Ethics. Seriously. There were people, the reverends you saw those days.
Yes.
The reverend, the retired bishop of AIC, the African Inland Church. Those were the people who, somewhere here up there, you could go and feel the house was really, the president was there. There was authority. He instilled discipline. And through the church plus education, the guy was all. Yes.
Would you agree with him that, the church has lost its clout?
Well, to a certain degree, particularly in our day-to-day, when you look at the Moi era, right from the 70s into the 80s, Kenya was still stepping out of the post-colonial era, and I would say Kenya was almost like a virgin land. And the cultural heritage we carry, particularly with strong family values and foundations. But today we are bombarded with a lot of secularism and the postmodern trends that are, flooding Kenya through social media and, of course, live streams from everywhere around the world.
Yes.
All of these factors contribute to the Christian trend. In a sense, there is a slowing down in terms of values and principles and generally ethics. But on the other hand, I would say that there is a strong remnant of Christian believers in this country that still are very passionate with God. And if you walk among that remnant, you'll find that there is a step higher that Kenyans have got. Particularly, I'm talking of the Christian remnant, that are not just giving out a religious show, but they are, you know, really rooted in Christ. They are rooted in prayer, rooted in the Word of God. Now, you will not see these people, you know, parading and trying to show themselves off. But I tend to believe that there is a strong Christian presence in this country as well. Yes.
So it hasn't been lost.
It hasn't been lost.
He's right. It has not been lost.
Yes.
But our younger generation, the generation that the bishop is talking about, where we have been flooded with social media, where you can transmit a false accusation, which runs millions. That generation needs to come back. Two, why have we lost family values, which Moi put in here, is because several people seem to have, for example, how many children in secondary schools know the 10 Commandments. Believe me or not, if you go this morning and pull out one of the pupils for 10 Commandments, none of them could pronounce even 5. There was that discipline even amongst the parents. The parents could come in and say, no, before you go. For example, when I grew up, my mom, and my mom especially, says, have you picked the Bible? Have you read the 10 Commandments? Because that was the first thing the teacher was going to say at school. Stand up, mental work, 10 Commandments.
Yes.
If you lose one, that means you'll miss about 10 minutes in a class. You don't want to miss that class. So there was that discipline that Moi had brought in schools, through education, in religion, and I agree that remnant is still very strong. That's why you find Bishop Gitonga here is still one of those few. Maziwa ya Baba. I think we grew up when the Maziwa was being, you know, given. Me, at least I did not drink the Maziwa, but I facilitated the Maziwa.
Okay, I want us to go to, you know, Kabarak University, where of course we have our reporter Simon Achola, who is on standby. Those are just live, you know, pictures that are coming from Kabarak University. Of course, we can see the, you know, the children who we are talking about. It's as early as 6 a.m. They were already streaming in. So you can imagine the, you know, the number of people who are expected at this particular function. And we'll talk a little bit about the controversy regarding, you know, the soda and the bread. It is expected that the proceedings that will be taking place at Kabarak University will be beamed live on the different screens that have been mounted by the government in that particular county where the late retired President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi is from. And let's just pick up from, you know, what Achola has pointed out, that, you know, the residents of Nakuru County feeling left out in the celebrations. What are your thoughts?
Well, at such a time, it's hard to really include everyone because this is a state funeral, and as we have seen the numbers, even right here in Nairobi, people flocking to Parliament to view the body. It just gives us an indication that you know, the retired president, the late president, you know, he had a heart for the people, and the people had a heart for him. And so it is possible that probably Nakuru, because of the numbers and just the reality issues, it could be it could easily be.
Let me just interrupt you. Those, of course, are live pictures that we are seeing coming from Lee Funeral Home, where the late retired President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, his body is being moved. Of course, it is expected to be flown to Nakuru. Thereafter, it will be going to his home in Kabarak, where he will officially be laid to rest. So that is just along the streets of Nairobi. The body has just officially left Lee Funeral Home. Just a couple of minutes past. It's actually 7 p.m. on the dot. And that tells you a little bit about, you know, the precision in which this has been carried out.
It's a military. Anybody with a military background like me, I'm happy that, yes, there was no mess. If you mess, you are told. Time, they said they will end at 2. It exactly ended at 2. Yesterday you saw 2 o'clock, everybody had finished. So leaders were briefed in advance. Speeches were short, and people kept time. Not the African way when they say 2 o'clock, you arrive 6 when the function is going. But picking on the point of the people in Nakuru saying they have not buried, they have not also, I think they have a right, but they are people in Mombasa. Most people in Mombasa were even making more noise that the president body should have been flown to Mombasa. So it cannot be for everybody. Right. Surely, I agree with the bishop that the time is very short, and the morning, if you can try to be there and taste the bread that Mr. Natembeya has said, it's like the port of Capernaum, when Jesus actually said, "Is there enough food?" And then they said, "We have people, but there is no food." So Mr. Natembe has filled the gap, so that the disciples don't come back to say, "But the people have been here from 6." You know, some people were there from 1 o'clock last night. Yes. And they needed something to refresh, to put in the stomach before they wait for the function, which will start late, like 2 o'clock, 12 today. I agree with the arrangements, but I sympathize with the Nakuru people that they have not had a chance. But Kabarak is in Nakuru, so they can as well try to go to Kabarak. It's not very far. And they try to see. I was impressed with the patriotism, really, Catherine. Yeah. The people from, especially from Kisumu, the Western. Yes. There were people there, 80 years old. He said he left home at 6, only to come and see the final journey of the late president. He touched very many people's hearts, and that is, I think, an African value. We don't say much to an African who has died. We always give it as it is. Because we have a feeling, like from my tribe, that if you speak too much about this guy, he will come back. So we grew up being told,
I know Bishop will differ with that.
There is a spirit. We have that in Bishop will differ. There were spirits also. So we don't speak much about the dead. And we don't condemn the dead. We give it a send-off to the dead. Then later on, we can sit down and say, look, you left us children, you left us this. That's how we do it in our culture. I don't know how other people's cultures are, but our culture, we don't speak ill of the dead. Yes.
Bishop, I interrupted you when you were speaking on the same.
Yes. Yeah. Well, just like my brother says, again, it's hard to accommodate everyone. I do believe that the government has tried its best to provide opportunities for people to mourn our departed leader. And let's be very understanding and very accommodative of realities, and also take advantage of technology. We can live stream, we can get to a place and join and view. Probably even on TV you can view a little bit better than trying to be among a mass of 30,000 people.
Well, you are eating something.
Right, exactly. So it is quite understandable. But of course, let's continue to pray and thank God for his life. Look forward to emulating the positive values that the Mzee provided for us and modeled for us. Yes, thank you.
All right. Even when Chola was speaking to us earlier, he talked about the issue about this week we've not seen politics, and that no one is supposed to talk politics at this particular funeral.
Politics. But the question of even deciding
politics
what,
and burials in Kenya, that is always
what is not. Kenyans, you are one of the best political minded country in Africa. You never sleep.
They say politics and development
yes,
go hand in hand.
You never sleep.
Yes.
You never sleep. If this is the good culture, if you nurture that politics, that space, that's very good for you. But you need to back up with social contract. You can't speak politics without social contract. Because you must speak politics and then you have a social worker coming home to say whether you took your child to school or not. So Kenya is a political country, a country that is dynamic in politics. You will stop people going to that funeral. Believe me or not, when it comes to the final send-off, when the military has finished its thing, someone will bring in politics. They are never stopped. Politics here is dynamic. One thing that I did not like, what I have not heard here, which I've heard, is that colors. You allow. Moi was a man who allowed every colors after 1992. Multi-parties came in. He allowed them. He said, let them come and talk. And he defeated them throughout 92, 97. Then later on, he said, okay, fine, it goes. So to restrict colors and they say come with only one color, it can cause a problem. I think you heard Mr. Achola saying, no, they have been told to come with one color only. So,
okay, let me interrupt you. I think those are live pictures now that we are getting from Wilson Airport. I think the body of the late retired president a couple of minutes ago was on the Gadi Road, so it should actually be arriving at the airport, and from there it will be airlifted to Nakuru, which essentially will mark the last leg before he's finally laid to rest. Yeah. So.
Bishop, go first.
Well, I pray that this sets also a precedence in regards to lessening the political talk, particularly during a funeral. Like my brother says, you know, Kenya is politically dynamic, you know, and the freedom of talk and expression and speech is there. But at times, you know, there is certain extremes that we go to as a nation, and particularly from our political leaders, and try to politicize everything and anything. But I do believe that in a time such as this, when one has lost his life, I do believe a lot of honor and respect needs to be given to a family so that they can mourn their departed in peace and give an honorable send-off to one who has gone to be with his maker. So I do believe that politics, like my brother again says, probably, you know, we had the comment that it's only one color that is to be. Well, again, we can argue it out in the sense that this is a departed political leader, and of course, let's just allow the colors.
Because we are celebrating
life. But of course, the political talk is what needs to be continually toned down for this funeral, and of course even other funerals. You know.
Do you think? I mean, for the past 8 days, we haven't seen, you know, much from politicians in terms of, you know, we are always known that politicians take advantage of funerals to go and, you know, further their political agenda. It's interesting that we haven't seen much of that.
Very true, and that's why I said I pray that it sets a precedence. And particularly for the late Mzee, who, you know, one of his remarkable speeches was that if I have wronged someone, forgive me. And if someone has wronged me, I have forgiven. You know, those words of confession and repentance and forgiveness, they disarm the enemy. They disarm any negative talk. And that's why, personally, I really believe this is a somber mood for our nation, and it needs to go with the spirit that Mzee had, a spirit of peace and tolerance and forgiveness, and let's maintain this.
All right.
Catherine, you understand that there is one thing that Kenya needs to do.
Yes.
And let them learn it from this death. Healing. Healing.
Healing.
Kenya has got everything. like the Roman Empire had. You remember Julius Caesar had everything. They coining the word that too much politics destroyed Rome. It came from the Roman Empire.
Yes.
If you look at the Roman Empire, those guys used to criticize everything. They all know Caesar is not dressed well. Caesar is not speaking well. Caesar is not doing this.
Right.
It went on and it became a norm in political sense. But there is one thing that Kenyans must do, which yesterday I was shocked that my president knocked on it. Reconciliation.
Yes.
If we don't do reconciliation, we have a problem. Some of us in Uganda did that reconciliation. He was right yesterday. That's why you see me not screaming anymore. Because we had a bigger war. Bigger wars. One of the wars took 20 years. But the people reconciled, shook hands.
Yeah.
We shook hands. Some of us had vowed never to shake his hand. But here, and that's it. The handshake that Raila Odinga and Uhuru Kenyatta did, oh my God, take it. You know you will be healed. But the people here, you're asking why politics is not there. They are just waiting. They are waiting, and the two, they did not want to fall in a bad situation politically. You don't know what you will say could land you in very big trouble. And with these big crowds and everybody mood in Kenya is on Moi, you could be in trouble. So people feared, but not because they have politics waiting. Just wait after today, tomorrow, if they are going to Meru, it is going to happen. So Kenyans need to heal. The healing process, the bishop is here, will tell you, it involves truth-telling. It involves accountability. It involves reparations, restitution, reconciliation. That is what we call a redemption strategy, which is now, President Uhuru Kenyatta says it leads to unity. Everybody was touching on unity. Moi never finished his rally without saying peace, love, and unity, which is a Nyayo philosophy that Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta today is following with Raila Amolo Odinga. They have put their differences aside. And they have said, for the sake of the country, let's do it. And this thing is catching fire in Africa. Everywhere. It is catching fire. You will see there is another country coming using the Kenya's model. 2-3 weeks ago, I was in that country and I saw it. They were asking me, can you write for us this thing of handshake? It is catching. So let's help Moi wherever the journey he has taken, where he's going. Let's put this country to a healing process.
Bishop, do you think we live by his mantra, siasa mbaya, maisha mbaya? Are we likely to see people beginning to play, what would say, clean politics?
I do believe so. I do believe that Kenya has a hope and a future when you look at the trend. We, any nation that embraces the trend of democracy has a journey, has a time to grow, and we take baby steps, and we at times mess ourselves up. But when you look at the overall trend from independence to date, there have been opportunities that this nation could have, fallen into worst case scenarios. But somehow we came around. God preserved this nation. And I do believe that leaders are looking, we also have a wise president who, indeed, like my brother again says, that he saw where we were going and he thought, well, let me bring my brother Raila on board. And they had the famous handshake, and things, turned around. So if we can rally around our leaders in the spirit of reconciliation and peace and harmony, then, you know, there is a bright future for our nation and for Africa at large. And, you know, I love saying this, that Kenya is a model nation, and many nations are reading from Kenya. All the events that take place, all the blueprints we make, there are nations out there that have already taken advantage, and they are, you know, they are prospering based on the principles they have learned from Kenya. Now, it's us as Kenyans to realize this and tone down on the extreme political utterances and vibrancy, and be able to look at growth of a nation, economic development, you know, peaceful coexistence. These are key issues that can really transform our nation for the better. For the better. Yes.
As we move forward, and just looking at, you know, the past 8 days, what would you say as a Kenyan, you know, lessons we should learn from what we have seen since, you know, the announcement that Moi has died up to date, when you look at the political class, and just how Kenyans have, you know, sort of come together?
Respect.
Yeah.
There is something that has come out. The order, that respect, there is that order, what can I call it? Order has come back to politicians.
It's as if as
all of them, I am telling you, as I said, all of them are walking very carefully. Nobody is trying to touch the other button. They say, they might say, I am the one who has said something bad. So if that sense of is inculcated in people's minds, I think that's why you saw very many people still, if they said the body was going to be viewed for a whole week, you could still have queues going as far as 1 mile up to Nyayo Stadium, because people wanted to know. The father is telling a son or a daughter that, you know, that man bought milk for us. Milk also is an incentive. Don't forget that. Moi has not been properly, you know, there are people who still want to money him. The sportsmen. The KBC here where we are, it was the studio to watch. 1 o'clock news. It was. If you don't watch 1 o'clock news, then you are not a very patriotic Kenyan. Because 1 o'clock news used to bring us shocker. The president is speaking. This place was well respected. And I believe people who have taken over now should respect it and bring it. You know, when we are talking like now, we are being heard by people in Central Africa. They in the paper, in everywhere. This direct. So one of the things that I have seen this whole week is the type of decorum people have behaved. Even there is no more of this. It is beginning now, as I saw on the social media yesterday, intellectuals. You know, it is us who always bring chaos, Jermaine. We, the so-called PhD holders, professors, we bring chaos. The normal person is all right. Then we have now brought differences. And then, you know, we must heal. We must heal. The man said, forgive me. In the military, when a man has put up his hands, you don't shoot him. Unless you're not a trained officer. If you're a trained officer, the discipline, you say, okay, we take you, the Red Cross will take you home. But here, people, the man said, forgive me. I've forgiven you. Then now you go and write a long essay to tell you what. What will you resurrect? Don't resurrect this grave, these spirits.
I think the body has arrived at Wilson Airport, so perhaps we can get some audio from Wilson Airport just to get the mood of what is happening right there as the body of the late retired President Daniel Toroitich officially arrives at Wilson Airport. And of course, there will be a small ceremony. I've seen the military already there. A bit of an event will be taking place before his body is put onto the airplane and takes off for Nakuru County, which will mark the final journey for the late retired president, who died on Tuesday last week after been ill for quite some time. A lot of events have taken place throughout the week, all the way since Tuesday, leading up to this particular moment where his body will, of course, just in the next few minutes be removed from the vehicle. We've been seeing it just being moved from Lee Funeral Home, Parliament Buildings, back to Lee Funeral Home, and now to Wilson Airport before the final journey that will be going to his home in Kabarak. I want us to go back to, to 2002 and still just looking at, the politics and the need for us to have peace. In 2002, he, handed over power peacefully, but that is not something that we have been seeing, ever since. So how do we go back to that period where, when it's time to hand over, there shouldn't be any unrest?
Yeah, I do believe that particularly our political class need to begin to look at politics as a game where we have winners and losers. And when you lose, that's not the end of the road. That we can have another time to dance as well. That this is not the end of the music. Because the late President Moi, the retired President Moi, he set a model. He set a precedence for Africa that power can be transferred peacefully.
Yeah.
God forbid some of the things that occurred during the handing over power and the slander and all of that, God forbid, particularly for a man who was willing to hand over power peacefully, and a man who had passionately called out for forgiveness, and also, saying, forgive me if I've wronged you. These are the true values that as Kenyans we need to embrace. We need to embrace the fact that when we are in a dynamic nation, a growing nation, a nation that is vastly populated with many tribes, there are certain values and principles that we must embrace for coexistence. And if you lose, just thank God for that moment and ask yourself, what are the lessons that I should have learned here, and move forward. There is opportunity for the future, and there is opportunity for us to lead. There is opportunity, leaders rise and they come and go. So there will be opportunity for others to come in the scene as well.
Okay. All right. I think his body has just been removed from the vehicle. It will be carted away to the chopper that is on standby that will finally see the body of the second president of the Republic of Kenya officially leaving Nairobi, the capital city, and now going to rest.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as we see this final salute, 2002, which you have touched on, and the bishop, I was there. I personally came back to Africa with the Sky News crew. We wanted to cover that event. Yes. And we did. In fact, as the
handing over ceremony.
Yes.
Okay.
An Africa consultant for Sky News, we pulled the crew back to Africa. But the problem we had, what I saw there.
Perhaps you can listen into that.
Yes.
Yeah. If we have some audio, let's listen into what's happening at Wilson Airport. Okay. We don't have the audio, so you can continue speaking to it.
And it should not happen again. Bishop just said, God forbid. Isn't it?
Yes.
No, me, I'm always straight to the point. This should not happen in Africa. If a man has surrendered, a man again has said, I've handed over power, why do you throw stones? Why do you throw mud? I have kept that shirt where my mud dropped on me. It's still in my house. And it is because in London, I would have brought it here for you to see. Even President Museveni stood up and said, no, people. You can have anger. The anger that has been building in Kenya since 1992 must be healed. That is the anger President Uhuru Kenyatta is targeting. Every time there is election, there is a lot of anger built, accrued.
Yeah.
It accrues like a rent areas. Yes, until it bursts. The landlord comes with padlock and they puts on and say, no, you are not. So
how do we sort this out conclusively?
Do you know what? There's one thing that, and I'm frank man, at my age, 65, I'm not going to tell a lie. If you don't fix your elections, please forget it. Why don't you fix the elections? People are waffling about all this BBI. There is one thing that is, which my bishop here will agree, is elections. Are you not mourning together? Are we not eating together in the restaurant? Are we not moving in the matatu together? But announce the date of elections in Kenya. You will see one who will drive in a different, when he sees you, Achieng'a, Madam, she will drive the other way. He doesn't want to see you. Fix the elections. The only way to fix the elections is allow. There is something that I want to say, why have you mixed these two things? Presidential election and then the rest. You notice that the presidential election is where problems of Kenya are. And if the BBI can fix that, if you Kenyans can fix that thing, that parties grow, the winner forms the government. South Africa, NC forms the government. DA goes to opposition. They are given cars, limousine, PA, information, communication ready, very ready to do the work of the leader of opposition. That is what Kenya should go.
Okay.
If you don't go that route, if you don't fix your elections, because you have asked a serious question, what do we do? Do it this way. Fix the election. Every expert who has read political science will come to this country and tell you, fix your election. Kurigila told you. Another one will tell you. Matsanga today is telling you. The bishop is telling you. Fix the elections. And this is where Kenya has had a problem. You don't have any problem. You are welcoming people. You welcome everybody. You even welcome some of us to eat some of your food, because we don't have food in our own place. We have food, but we don't have space to eat it. If you fix election, you are high. You haven't gone down yet.
Yes. Bishop, we said the county governments were going to fix some of these issues that he's talking about. Have they succeeded?
Well, I believe that there is a measure of development. There is a measure of progress. Going forward, I do believe that, any building that has weaknesses and threatening to collapse, you must go back to the foundation. The nation of Kenya has a foundation, and borrowing leaf from a nation with a post-modern scenario like America, it has strong roots in God. They talk about in God we trust, and the foundation of really honoring God. One of the things that I do believe is a big challenge is that the negative ethnicity. And Kenya is coming from that cultural heritage where our ethnic divide actually, it doesn't care our level of education. It will show its ugly face, even with top professionals, with top in governance levels and so on, to a certain degree. And so particularly with the new constitution, honestly speaking, it's not that we do not have adequate laws, and it's not that we need even to look for new laws. It is about re-evaluating our foundation, and I really appreciate.
So it's more of the people than the laws.
Right. I appreciate the preamble in our new constitution, which acknowledges God. I wish that we could transition from our cultural and ethnic gods to the supreme God, and then be able to converge and say we are coming for a national gathering for prayer and national reflection, and say what are the true values and principles that we need to embrace beyond our culture and our tribes, and now develop a new culture which is nationalistic. The late president, you know, when we reflect on his cabinet selection times and the 1 p.m. news that habari kutoka KBC, you know, those years.
Yes. When you hear about the changes.
You hear about the changes. And one of the trademarks was the inclusivity. And being able to bring all the regions of Kenya on board in his cabinet. These are critical issues that we need to look at in the future. You know, the winner takes it all scenario that has been one of the issues that we have dealt with in the past. It shouldn't be going forward. That, you know, the winner and the loser must be able to come together and be able to know, you know, what share does the loser have and what share does the winner have, so that we coexist, because at the end of the day we are one nation, we are one people.
Okay, that's just, you know, the family of the late retired president there at Wilson Airport. I think it's been joined by the Senator Mutula Kilonzo, if I'm not wrong, that's him on the right. Gideon Moi, Senator for Baringo, and of course the son of the late retired president, just walking towards the chopper that is expected to airlift his late father to their home in Kabarak. I think it's safe to say the body is already on board. Just a few minutes ago, it was put inside the helicopter by, of course, the military who were there to receive it, escorted it in. They should be closing it shortly before the journey to Nakuru begins. So those are just events that are happening this morning here in the capital, Nairobi. If you're joining us, this is live coverage of events that are leading up to the burial ceremony of the late retired President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. His body has since left Lee Funeral Home. It is currently at the Wilson Airport already. It is on board the chopper, Kenya Air Force chopper that you can see live there on your screen. Just the final preparations before this particular chopper exits the capital of Nairobi, exiting with the body of the second president of the Republic of Kenya. Kenyans have mourned him. The past 3 days, they've had an opportunity to view his body. National interdenominational prayers held yesterday at the Nyayo Stadium here in the capital, Nairobi. And this morning, he is headed to Kabarak, where his family, the county where he comes from, will be receiving his remains before the final send-off that will mark the end of an era 95 years after he was born in the little-known village in Kabartonjo.
The journey is a journey that brings a lot of memories. The struggles that he has gone through, the solutions he has given to Africa, South Sudan, and unfortunately, wherever he is not happy with South Sudan. He expected a new country to have peace, but he's gone at a time when even peace is fragile. We don't know. We are only 10 days left to decide whether there is a peace agreement permanent or not. Even some of the presidents yesterday, I bumped into one of them in one of the hotels, says he's going back to Addis Ababa to make sure that Riek Machar and Salva Kiir make this South Sudan, which was Moi's baby. Moi's baby, as on a Pan-African point of view. The problems that brought Sudan where it is are the problems we have here. They are here now. They are here. The deputy started fighting the president. The president said, the deputy, you are fighting. And they went to war. They have caused us a problem. And Moi has died, not solving, not seeing that. And I believe the last moments he must have been asking the Gideon, what is happening in South Sudan? He must have been asking people. We believe Honorable Kilonzo, Stephen, will be able to solve and bring peace.
Yeah.
10 days left. And you know where we are heading? We are heading towards a tribunal. There's a country that has set up the tribunal. You know about all these things. We are playing with the two guys. If they don't sign this agreement, there's a tribunal waiting. A country is going to pay. One superpower is willing to pay for all of them. Salva Kiir, Riek Machar, tribunal. You remember 394 people, 1,000.
Yes.
They are gone. And nobody has done the proper peace agreement. So Moi has gone down. I think he would wish, wherever he is, if there's, as the bishop will say, there's life after this. There is life. He must be thinking about South Sudan from a Pan-African point of view. But the problems still remain what the bishop has said here. We have those people, the values of people have gone down. We have lost value. It's not the people. It's not shrinkage of constitutionalism. We make very good constitutions, but we eat them. Let me use literally those words. Shrinkage. Look, this constitution, who is abiding to it? There's a law that you should not elect a man
of questionable character.
Yes. Then we go on and elect. Then later on we say, no, we are removing you. We can't have these 56 years coming after independence.
Yes.
Something should be seen. You have done very well. Clean that. I have told you already, one thing kills you. Kenya, very good place. If you have come to Africa and you have not come to Nairobi, please. Don't say you came to Africa.
You came to Africa. All right.
Don't say.
All right. Let's just pick up, from what you've said, and Moi's passion for, peace within the Horn of Africa. His role in the OAU, and today we are still talking about borderless Africa. What did you say about, the steps that African leaders have taken to, fulfill what he started years ago, just to see, Africa united and traded as one, living peacefully, and just removing the borders?
I wish they could make greater strides, because the potential of Africa still remains locked up in the bureaucracies that remain. We do appreciate, particularly for the East African integration, and there is some level of progress, and being able to, travel freely across, do business, freely across. But one simple thing that I have a concern of, you go, at times it's easier even to fly to Europe or to America than to fly across to a sister African nation. Why should it be, more cheaper to call the Western nations of America than, and so expensive to call within our own African continent? Why should I go across to Uganda or Tanzania and I try to call back and it's costing me a fortune? All of these things in terms of communication and connectivity are critical to building a united Africa, to building a united East Africa. And when these underlying factors are addressed, then the livelihood of the African people will begin to improve. And so I do believe that a lot needs to go in place. Yeah.
Okay. I think we'll just go again to Wilson just to highlight you on what is happening currently. We can see the chopper has just, is ready for takeoff. The body already on board. The family is also traveling with the late retired president. Everything appears set, and they should be taking off any minute from now, and that will mark the end of his journey here in Nairobi and his final journey on his way to Kabarak, where he will officially be laid to rest. So that is the status currently here in the capital, Nairobi. The late retired President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi's body is on board that particular chopper that you can see on your screen. We are set to lift off any minute from now, and that is what we have been discussing throughout this morning. His legacy, a man who is hailed as a statesman, a Pan-Africanist, a professor of politics, if you like, and a teacher, you know, by profession, and of course the second president of the Republic of Kenya. So just continue speaking to, you know, what we can see now, you know, as African leaders. What lessons can they pick from the late retired president and his push for peace and the need for the region to develop as one?
Yes, and so I do believe that greater strides need to be taken. Good progress, you know, within the East African region has been undertaken, but like I've highlighted already, the issues of communication and connectivity regionally are critical. And so we need to really speed up this process. Southern Sudan is an issue. It's a concern that, you know, for the peace and stability of Southern Sudan, it will create opportunities for not only for the Sudanese people, but also for many Africans who want to take investments. They want to do business there. And also an attitude change from our Southern Sudanese people, so that when they see neighboring nations flocking in, they let them welcome the people. Let them welcome, because we are an African nation. Basically, we are an African continent. We are one people. So we need to open up our hearts to one another and coexist and do business together, because that's where our hope lies, particularly the hope for our young generation. Yeah.
Of course, the chopper there, it's now officially leaving Wilson Airport. So it should be lifting any time from now, just slowly cutting away out of Wilson Airport, and that will mark what you'd call the end of an era.
In Nairobi.
In Nairobi.
And you see,
but his memory will continue.
I don't know whether the
continue to shape.
Whether the bishop will tell me this one.
Yes.
My tears always come with that song. Yes. I don't.
Which song?
There is that final song. If like now, my tears are about to come. And there is a song in the hymn, until we meet again. This is when my tears, whenever I'm mourning.
God be with you till we meet again.
Yes, that is the last. I don't know why God has done that, but they come out, and that is the bitterness. I see this guy is gone. Like when you have the man living like now, it is when I go back and see what have you done. But you pointed up one thing, Bishop. It is easier to enter the kingdom of God than go to some of these African countries. And for me,
that is
when you talk about when you talk about African integration, that the movement, passport, where go to South African embassy. They tell you to carry your father's death certificate. I'm telling you, I'm honest. Have you ever tried to go to South Africa to get a visa here, Johannesburg? I don't know. It's like bad news. As if you have come from planet Venus. You are running here, bring this, go that, bring that. No. And yet for us in Uganda, we give them on arrival, whether even the passport, you only need to check your passport. Nowadays, they are electronic. You can know whether it's forged or not. We give them entry. But for them, they restrict us. So, there are some things in Africa that have not worked. And Moi wanted them to work. Wherever he has gone with the club of other people, the Kurumas, the Sekuturis, the Gabriel Nasser, the Haislas, the Patrice Lumumba, the Obote, the Jomo Kenyattas, the Amir Cabral, all those, the Nyerere, the Machel, the Mondaleni, the Agustini Noetro of Africa. These guys are there, the Mabutus. They now ask, what has happened? What have we left behind? We have left a divided continent, a continent that does not make it actually the continent on sale. You are political a bent person. It's a continent on sale.
I think the chopper just lifted up, so it's important for us to let the viewers know that that is the chopper that is ferrying the remains of the late retired President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. 7:45 a.m. is the time in which the chopper has officially lifted off, and that marks the end of this journey from this side in Nairobi. 8 days of a lot of activities leading up to this particular moment where he will be going home to rest. And we have a crew that is in Nakuru as well as Kabarak, and once that chopper lands in Nakuru County, of course, we'll be able to continue following the events that are happening as they lead up to his final burial, where over at least 30,000 people are expected to attend this particular burial. Residents in Nakuru, those who will not be able to make it to Kabarak, will have an opportunity to follow those particular proceedings live at Afraha Stadium in Nakuru, where there are screens that have been mounted. We have our reporter Chola, who is on the ground. We also have those who are in Kabarak, Edward Kabasa, as well as Sarafina Robi, who will be giving us live updates of what is happening on the ground. So those are just some of the live pictures that are coming from the ground where our reporters are stationed as we await for the body of the late retired president to officially land in Nakuru County. And just from your screen, I can see our reporter Edward Kabasa, who is at Kabarak. Of course, the mourners have since gathered. You can just see the politicians, the family, friends, relatives. And in this particular event, we are expecting at least 11 heads of government within Africa, heads of government, state and government within Africa to attend this particular burial ceremony that is taking place in his home in Baringo County, where he will finally be laid to rest. A mixture of both civilian as well as military send-off in honor of the late retired president who ruled this country for the longest, that is 24 years, shaped who we are today.
It has been a very great week of both somberness and happiness. Happiness, people are thinking of what next. Why can't Kenya? You notice that even the level of social media has gone down in condemnation. There is a lot of exchange until this bread issue and the Coca-Cola came up. Then we saw something coming up. But things had cooled down on the social media, which means it touched very many people. It touched very many people, all the presidents. But one thing that I picked yesterday is Tanzania has brought only gave us a sample of their presidents. Did you look at that? The sample, Kikwete and Mkapa. There is Mwinyi. They left. So it is a signal that just as Moi reached a point and said, the late President Moi said, I think time has come. I opened up multipartyism. You have come, you have seen, here it is.
And it is working.
And he said, please, whoever takes over, always do one thing, unite Kenyans. I think that is the most important message, that even when you go back to the books of political science, you find Julius Caesar said, it is not my death that will matter. It is the death of the Roman Empire. Most of these African countries, the worries are there lingering. Once a Julius Caesar goes down, what next? What next? So leaders must prepare transition I'm speaking from a Pan-African point of view. Prepare transition. You saw Mugabe in down, there was no transition. He wanted to stick up to the last minute. His army came and pulled him out. And we see in Sudan, there was no transition. His army came and pulled you out. So leaders should emulate Moi in Africa and say, I've done enough, I've reached here. There you are, you want it that way? Have it, I've gone home. Nyerere style. You can control this country. We can control, because sincerely speaking, Bishop, we have a problem at the moment.
Yeah.
That as Europe disintegrates, Europe wants to recolonize Africa. Each country in Europe wants to take a share of Africa. You notice we have gone back to the Berlin conference, that Britain is gone. Why is Britain going away? Is because it was waiting. It was being curtailed not to come. But now it is on its own. I bet you saw the first conference they called, you come and talk to us, not this, not the Germans, not the French. So let Africa prepare, like Moi said, prepare to unite this country. If Kenya is united, we are home and dry.
Getting, from what he's talking about and the economy of Kenya today, are we doing the right things? Because we're always talking about unemployment, inflation. Where is it that perhaps we are going wrong?
There has to be a change. And like I said, there has to be a moral rebirth for our nation. One of my presentations in the BBI discussion has been that we need to consider including chaplaincies in all our levels of government, including the counties. So that the clergy, we are not just called for special events that come and pray and then your time is gone, you end up. But it's like we become an integral part of the process of shaping the future of our nation, not just on a Sunday morning, but even in governance spaces. Because, like I said earlier, what Kenya needs is not a new set of rules. It is a rebirth of our morals. It is our values, our ethics. We need to re-engineer these into the life of the Kenyan population. It will transform the nation. Have devotion every morning, and allow those who are over, the Muslim faith, let them have their space. Let the Christians have it. It's not that we are making, professional spaces to be religious, but the principle remains that God, our Creator, must be brought back into the workspace, into governance circles, and God will heal our nation. God will heal our land.
Let's go back, to the conversation that we were having regarding, corruption and graft. Of course, corruption is a problem we've had since time immemorial. But if you look at, how, the levels of corruption were much lower, during Moi's time, and what we have seen coming up, and now again we are beginning to see it going down. How can we, ensure that? Is it possible to eliminate corruption? Let me first begin from there. Before we even talk about bringing it down.
It is. It is possible.
It is.
It is possible. Mugabe, can I tell you what Mugabe did about corruption? He called all these ministers to his state house. One morning, they never came out. They only came out when they have listed all accounts of the money they have stashed. The PA and the drivers waited. I'm telling you, I saw it with my eyes because I was Mugabe's PR guy. From 1997, I stood for the truth. I disagreed with my Bishop of York, Bishop Sentamo, who cut his collar, cut it with a scissor because he hated Mugabe. I said, Bishop, you are from Uganda, that is very bad. I stood on the side of Mugabe to say, engage Mugabe. I was telling the British government, engage him. You know what he did? He called all the ministers and said, this is a paper, booklet, write what you have. Outside there, which you did not have. Each minister wrote Whoever wrote and finished, completed, he had already done intelligence. Corruption can be fought with national intelligence. You get intelligence. I'm happy the courts have overturned that issue, that when you have a thief, warn him, I'm coming to investigate you. How can the thief stay with the material? Now the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court overturned. That is very good. Because you can't tell a thief that I'm coming, be prepared yourself, or be prepared, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
He will run away. Mugabe got all the money. By the end of the exercise, there was one person, the Minister of Finance, called Mr. Coronel, who never declared accounts in South Africa. Mugabe told him, you go to prison. If you look at Mr. Coronel today, he is counting trees. You see in Africa, you count 1, 2, 3 when you have nothing to do. Because his money was taken. And they recovered the money. Another version that Mugabe used was the clergy. There are people here who are willing to go back and tell the bishop, boss, I stole, but you take this money. The anti-corruption should listen to us here today, because this guy is high flyer. They don't want to listen. Allow people to go to their bishops, their sheikhs, and declare that, that my friend, I have 6 houses, but I want one, I fear, I want one house only for my family. The rest, please. Bishop, go and tell the anti-corruption Bishop Wabukala that things are here. And then give me, please don't take me to prison. The biggest problem that we are inculcating in this country is retributive justice. Retributive justice. Unasema tutakufunga miaka 6. That if a country like this one, where it has reached, they have Wamutata will be in court tomorrow to stop it. So do one thing, come back and do what we call justice of dialogue.
In fact, you know, it reminds me in scripture the story of the Mount Carmel experience. And in fact, what I envision for Kenya is a Mount Carmel experience where the prophetic arm of the church would, to working with the government structures, invite the nation to a Mount Carmel experience where we have a holy and a very somber convocation, where we come and confess that indeed I have made this mistake. Indeed, I have been involved in corruption. I tell you, there is a prophetic voice that can go out before the altar of God. And those who have sinned, they will return. Those who have stolen, they will return. They will humble. Beyond that, I tend to believe that, you know, you can end the problem of corruption in Kenya in a day. If God is given an opportunity to work onto the hearts of the Kenyans. Because the heart of man is wicked, as the Bible says. But when you allow this man to have an encounter with his Creator, he sobers up and he realizes that I must confess and I must realign myself to do what is right. Of course, there are still those with stony hearts and all of that. And beyond that holy convocation, you know, such people, they can suffer the consequences of their sin. But otherwise, there needs to be a holy convocation, which is national. You know, talk about the president just came back from the US. They have the National Day of Prayer. One of my
But we also have the National Day of Prayer, but headed by Parliament.
Unfortunately, it is for a select few.
It's for the elite group.
For America, it is a National Day of Prayer. All the states, all the cities, they have Christians gathering and leading out prayer, and government officials participate. That's what we desire to see in this nation, that it streams down from just an executive setting to really, even the borders, encourage them that in this National Day of Prayer, you are going to come together, sit together, reflect, and
wherever
pray,
you are.
wherever you are. The business community, everyone, come, let's pray and get back to the principles of our Creator. It will heal our nation.
Do you know, the sense of retributive justice has scared very many. It is a short-term solution.
Yeah.
Just go restorative justice. Use it too. Corruption will be over. There are people here who wanted to return the money. Haven't you heard yourself? Someone
Perhaps
went.
Bishop can tell us if
Not
those
the
who have
bishop.
approached.
You have heard people have approached DPP.
Yeah.
Yes. Sema niliiba lakini nataka kurudisha. Let this be put in the law. Let's use two methods.
Yes.
As we catch the thief, take it to court. Also, let's use another silent method, where people can go to their sheikh, their bishop, their clergy, and they say, you know, you are the only man of God.
Are you talking about amnesty?
It is not restorative justice is not amnesty.
They return, and do they still have to?
After restorative justice creates a product called amnesty.
Yeah.
After you have restored, rebuff, which is talking about, rebuff yourself and say, I have stolen, but please don't take me, don't make it public.
But you
and then they give you a certificate, you return quietly between you and your family. And have you seen that some people are, Bishop, some people are even telling, I don't know you. Have you seen where we have reached? I don't know you. Yeah, you are not my son.
Now you carry it on the cross on your.
Yes, on your own.
Yeah.
So, but this person says, I don't know you. You have lived with the bishop for 20 years. Then you say, I don't know you, because of corruption. So why don't you give them an angle of restoration, restorative justice, where they go and dump this money with the bishop, and the bishop moves to tell Wabukala that this man brought this money.
But will he be jailed?
No, it produces amnesty.
You see, and that's why you see again back in Scripture, in the Old Testament day, God commanded, that they would also have what they call the cities of refuge.
Yes.
And if someone had made a sin or had committed a crime somewhere, and if he ran and accessed those cities of refuge, he would not be touched. He would be pardoned. Because it is a step towards a moral rebirth and rehabilitation and reconfiguring his life. So, especially for a nation such as Kenya, where, honestly speaking, we live here and we know what goes on, where corruption became like the way of life.
Yes.
If we were to address each individual corrupt case today, prisons would not contain.
Yeah. You need a restorative system.
Yes.
But aren't those who would argue that, it will set a bad precedent in the context of someone else will know, after all, if I steal, I have the window to take it back. And
wait. When you climb a matatu, which takes 14 passengers, and you become the 15th, you have broken the law. Where are you supposed to go? In a committee or industrial area? Honestly. Or fined by the police. Because you are now a criminal. You are yourself climbing a matatu, the driver is committing a crime, the conductor is committing a crime. You are also committing a crime. So restorative system of justice, alternative systems of justice can sort some of these things. Where corruption starts, why does the police have a roadblock permanent in some place? It's because they are collecting something. The conductor knows he's going to give. So how do we remove this moral decay of a conductor collecting extra money up the hill, and then you arrive down to offload this money somewhere.
And the principle of the Creator himself, you know,
Yes.
I make reference of the Word of God because that's authoritative in a sense. You know, like the woman caught in adultery, you know, she was brought before Christ, you know, and the public court, the public justice says this one has to be stoned. You know, one of the questions I ask, where was the man who led her to sin? Where are those men? They needed to be there as well, to be stoned. But unfortunately, they were not there. But now, one of the things that Jesus does, he bends down and writes on the ground in the dirt, and then says and makes the statement, of course, that if you have never sinned, be the first one to cast a stone.
Yeah.
When he raises up his head, all of the accusers had gone, and tells this woman, "Go and sin no more."
No more.
So that's what we are talking about, the restorative justice, where we are talking about giving an opportunity for these people, especially coming from a nation that whose trend and cultural trend was corruption, has been corruption. To a certain degree, there needs to be these considerations where these people are brought, you know, they are able to confess, they are able to restore, but also be warned that, hey, the fact that you are restoring today and you are being pardoned does not mean that you'll be forgiven tomorrow. Go and sin no more. Yeah. So we are guided by the principles of the Creator as well in some of these issues. And by saying this, it's not about condoning the corruption trend, not at all. No. But it's about, you know, how do we configure? Yes, how do we configure the moral trend of the
corruption? Because that is your question.
Yes.
Okay.
Another one is pre-bargain.
Yeah, of course, pre-bargain.
Introduce it. Introduce it. The Akasha were here. But when they reach the United States, with the good conditions of playing tennis in the cells and having good, they confessed quickly.
Okay.
Said, yes, we did this, we did this.
Yeah.
Please don't give us life sentence. Give us halfway.
Yeah.
And we have told you this is what it is. That can also encourage people to come out to say, I will serve a less sentence if I do a pre-bargain. Which is being done in the United States. Not that there is no corruption, there is. And in the United States, they can even lock you up for $1. If you misuse $1, they will lock you up. And that is it. How do we sort of help the government, the president, in fighting corruption? Some people must introduce another way, quietly, with a law. Now that you are doing the BBI, put it in a law. Restorative justice, which leads to amnesty, and a caution that never should you ever be involved in this thing for another 20 years. If in fact, you are more or less in a prison. So when you go to bribe someone, you think of the 20 years.
Yes.
You said, no, please, I will come for my documents tomorrow, do them at your time, 5 days, not to corrupt or bribe to get the documents. That can happen.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's move this conversation forward and, you know, just look at, you know, the emergence of multi-party politics in Kenya. Of course, the late retired president is hailed for bringing multi-party politics into Kenya. But if you look at, you know, the parties today, how, you know, we form our parties and the ideologies around them, would you say he would be proud of what we are in terms of our preferred political parties?
I think he would cry out and say, niliwaambia hii kitu italeta shida.
Vyama vingi vitaleta mgawanyiko.
Yeah. But, you know, it is a positive window and opportunity that he created to mature our democracy and to develop, to give room for the growth and development and the maturity of true democracy. But then, you know, let's not take these things for granted. And political party structures and systems need to be put in place in a manner that ensure that credible processes are adhered to. Because the unfortunate thing with political party and party politics is that, again, corruption finds its way even into political parties. And then eventually, it's not even the right candidate who, you know, they are politically, or rather a democratically nominated candidate is the one who takes the seat. You know, these things have to be addressed within that political party machinery, so that the principles of proper governance and proper processes are put in place. And it will help towards maturing our politics and our governance structures and systems at all levels. So there has to be a reconfiguration of also our systems within the political parties. That would be my take.
There are no political parties in Africa.
Yeah.
They are vehicles. The only few.
The vehicles to get you to power.
Yes.
Then you ditch them after that.
Look, Jubilee, after 2022, might not be there. Let's be honest. There is no political party in Kenya with ideology except KANU, where the late died. A KANU member. It had ideology. All the parties in Africa, from Kwame Nkrumah party, Nyerere party, Obote party, on the ANC, and the ZANU-PF, and the MPLA, and the Frelimo, have you seen? Survive. The rest perished. Because people have formed the vehicles for power delivery. You are in power, you forget. Asking all these parties if they have ever called even a delegates conference. Which one? Where have I seen a delegates conference? I have not entered any of the Kenyan parties with a delegates conference as a special guest. Parties used to call us as special guests from each country. Parties are not there. 2, democracy in parties does not exist. We have put them in our pockets. Ours. My party. You see, you don't say my party, our party, not mine. That is where things have gone wrong. Not only Kenya, but even in Uganda. You can see people who condemn Museveni for having stayed in power. Themselves have stayed in opposition power for a long time. And you have also lost elections 6, 7 times. Why don't you give way for a new bishop to come and preach with new wine? You see, that is not, there's no political party yet. I've not seen one here. I've seen the only other, the party here that is growing is ODM. That's the truth. ODM has been stronger. And Raila Amolo Odinga has been, you know, uniting. One of the aspects that I value him is he unites the opposition. They speak the truth. In Africa, elsewhere, there is no opposition there. Everybody wants leadership to be in the State House. There is no opposition in my country, for example. We have 26 presidential candidates lining up for 2021. Now, you don't have even money to buy a fax machine in your office. How will you win an election? That's it. There are no parties. But it goes back to elections. Mark you, if you clean your elections, we are home and dry. If you clean your mechanisms of electing, that is when Kenya will be stable. And I hope the BBI team, after this funeral, will work so hard, will make sure that things are ready to go. I just want a better Kenya for us, so that if you come to Africa, you say you have come to Kenya. If you don't say you came from Kenya, Nairobi, even on the plane, people will laugh at you.
Yes. All right. Of course, this is a continued coverage of the live events that are taking place across the country, more particularly in Nakuru County, where the late retired President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi's body is expected anytime from now to arrive at the Kabarak University grounds, where there will be a funeral service that will take place before he is finally laid to rest. He was put in the coffin, the flag was draped, and that is just a symbol of what usually happens during, state funerals. Some of the things that, perhaps you'll see when you talk about a state funeral, what is it that Kenyans should expect to see?
First, I think a state funeral, you lie in the state. It means it's taken over. There are several types of states.
Yeah.
There's a shallow state, a narrow state, a deeper state, and a special state.
Yeah.
This is now special state.
Special state.
The army is taken off.
Yeah.
They don't give you 21 gun salute.
Yeah.
They give you 19. People need to be educated.
And an even number.
Yes, 19 gun salute is always for the head. People saying bye-bye to the commander-in-chief. The 21 gun salute comes when you are welcoming His Excellency up here, at the hill. So that is, I just want to thank my colleagues. I am a retired man in the army, left the army. I thank them for being precise and doing the best job they have done. You notice that there is even discipline. You don't come, when the other units are on the road, they stop you. You say, no, I have got a card to go there. But here, people are saying, if they tell you to go this way, you go that way. That is the type of, I wish most of the functions are conducted that way. The army has done, the security agencies, all of them combined, the police, the GSU, the National Army, the Air Force, they have done a great job. Thank you very much. You have done a great send-off. And we have learned quite a lot from this, that there is no politics, there is unity of purpose in mourning.
In life, just as in death, he managed to, unite the country.
Yes.
So those are just, continued pictures that we continue to see coming from the Kabarak airstrip, where the late retired President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi's body has just arrived. It will be carted to the Kabarak University grounds, where the final ceremony will be conducted. Quite an elaborate ceremony has been planned. After here, of course, the mourners have already gathered at the grounds. We expect President Uhuru Kenyatta will also be making his way to these particular grounds. Also, at least 11 heads of state and government are expected at this particular function as they bid their final farewell to a great man, a man who has served this nation. He was, said, a selfless leader, so to speak.
Yes, indeed.
Yes. So that is what is happening on the ground. We continue to receive these live pictures from Kabarak University. The body now leaving the airstrip. Officially, it will be driven all the way to the final
there is
university grounds. Yes.
I wanted to, I think President Moi prepared his journey very well.
How so?
Look at the infrastructure. I've gone to bury some presidents in this world. I have not found that type of infrastructure. I don't want to name them so that these countries come.
Yes,
from
please
me.
don't name names.
I am very, I'm very impressed that there is no hiccup on infrastructure.
Yeah.
Some people, you can't reach where they came from because some of them, for example, one of my leaders in Africa whom I wanted to bury, there was controversy. This one, there is no controversy. I've not seen any controversy.
Yes.
We arrived in Zimbabwe, in Harare, sorry to mention.
Yeah.
We arrived for this type of function like the one of yesterday. We are told it is not going to be there. The Madam Amai Mugabe had changed it. So I am very happy with this arrangement that there is no controversy here. We have not shifted the gear to go to the village, then come this way. Mugabe's body ended up being buried 1 month when we have already left Harare. So this is a very good ending. Baba Moi, very good ending.
Bishop, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. And you know, reflecting on the full military honors that he has been accorded, but yet the man has lived a very humble, low life, particularly after the handing over. And you know, it just speaks of a character in a leader, in a departed leader, which it needs to be emulated by those in power and even future leaders, that we can be humble, we can be powerful, but very humble, because that in itself is what God appreciates and uses that to bless our lives.
It's interesting that, you know, he left power in 2002. It's 2020, about 18 years, and not very much, you know, he wasn't very much in the limelight, so to speak.
He was in control. Haven't you seen the organizational structure? He chose his heir apparent. Yes. And these are some of the facts. Now this is a final journey. Don't fear to say it. He's there. The hair is there. Haven't you seen him seated behind there? He's escorting. This is, and for him.
Are you talking about the senator for Baringo?
Yes, he's there. He's written it down in his handwriting. That's why you see no contesting forces here. That it shows us, we people, especially for some of us who are in that bracket going, and we have bigger families in Africa, we better organize ourselves so that the empires don't collapse. You have seen empires being even auctioned. No. Organize your life while you are still alive. I think the bishop will even agree with me that arrange your way. Nobody is struggling to sit on that car. In other places, people will struggle even to take the tire.
Yes, we've just seen the family, you know, seated at the open boot.
Yes, and that is what he wanted. He wanted a wish that my daughter, my granddaughter, sits with you up to the end. Not that he has segregated the rest. No. Alipanga maisha mzuri sana.
Kabisa.
Amepanga haki ya Mungu. Huyu amepanga. He's a leader you must emulate. He did it from a humble beginning to a very high destiny that God had prepared him, and he's going with that destiny and that integrity. You see the integrity, how many people have come from the whole world, how many people are standing, how many news agencies in CNN, Al Jazeera are carrying this, because there was integrity. And that is what we should actually rebuff, bring it, restore our integrity, which is what we have done, tried to do with the bishop. Although he hasn't told me who went to Jerusalem.
Bishop, I mean, do many people, particularly in Africa, really plan, you know, for their deaths?
The unfortunate thing is that at times when particularly those in power are in power, they get so drunk with power that at times they think they will live forever and they do not foresee the future. But I do believe that it is critical for us to realize, for people to realize, that there is a time for everything. And there is a time to be alive, and there is a time that you will depart. And, you know, the Bible again talks about your works will follow you. So let's do good. Let's do justice. Let's do what is morally correct and right and pleasing to God and before men. Because beyond our lifespan here on earth, there is a life after death. And we will need to give an account of that life. And that's the planning of our departure should be characterized in our service to humanity, because that is what pleases God. That we were honorable, we were truthful, we were servant oriented, we were generous in our gifts and talents and resources to be a blessing to humanity. Those are critical issues that can characterize that should characterize our present day life and will account also in our eternal life. Yes.
Yeah.
The question is, the man was very generous. Sports was on the highest. We no longer have the East African rally. Now this is February, people would be preparing their tickets to come to Nairobi to watch the East African rally, the motor rally.
Yeah.
The man was generous to sports. You win, he gives you something to incentive. It's not a bribe.
Yes.
It was
I
an
was
incentive.
talking to one of the son to the veteran Kadenge. He's been a team coach at Nzoia Sugar. My brother Kadenge, and he was reflecting. He said, Bishop, Moi gave 4 acres each to Gor Mahia and AFC to for their for their sports centers. It's like, this man loved sports. And when someone was reflecting and saying, talk about some of the games, he was there watching and cheering the clubs. So he's a man who loved sports and he supported it.
And the music.
Yes, and music.
He loved music.
Yes.
There is that song that always keeps me even alert.
Which song is that?
When songers song, Tawala Kenya, Tawala.
Yes.
You see, when it is being sung by those students, I don't know, I was looking at one of the students. Were you one of them?
Yes, I actually sang back in the days.
Tawala Kenya, Tawala. That song gives you national patriotism. Unakuwa na nguvu ya kuamuka kwenda kufanya kazi. Lakini sasa hivi things have gone under, and the music, the culture, things have been taken over. We like this is the one, they jump, which I don't want. I don't like. I am happy that all the children have grown mine. There is no one jumping that way.
And a lot of it is noise.
Yes, it's showbiz. Everywhere is showbiz. That's why we have gone, the societies, indeed, we restore ourselves. There is something we need to do as the Africans.
To go back to our culture. All right. I want us to go back to Kabarak University grounds, where we have our reporter, Sarafina Robi, who is on standby. She will be talking to the government spokesman, retired Colonel Cyrus Oguna. Sarafina, over to you.
Fit at the burial site. So the burial site will be only restricted to the close family members and a few selected government officials. So not everybody will be allowed to go in there.
Okay, thank you. And how would you describe the security situation today here at the Kabarak grounds?
We have taken care of security and safety. Security in terms of physical harm, and safety is in terms of those who may get a bit dizzy because there's so many people together, and that may affect others. So there's a lot of vehicle ambulances that have been deployed in strategic places. St. John's ambulance is here. Government agencies that charge with the responsibility of safety are also here with the ambulances. The police are manning areas of interest as far as security is concerned. So in terms of those two, every measure has been taken to ensure that all is well.
As of yesterday, we were able to see a number of heads of state attending the Requiem Mass yesterday at the Nyayo Stadium. Will we also be able to see such people attending today's event?
Today's event, we expect the head of state, our head of state, to be here. Not all those that were there yesterday, the various heads of state and governments that were there during the national farewell service. Most of them have gone back. And so today, you only expect our head of state and possibly the head of state from South Sudan.
Today being the last day when Mzee Daniel Moi will be laid to rest, how do you eulogize him today?
he's obviously somebody that we can say that's larger than life. He lived a life that larger than life, and somebody that is a lot that, like it was said yesterday, that we can be able to learn from. We can be able to, live his legacy, and he stood for very strong principles of, that every person must access education, and that you must be able to love one another, and also in the same context, we cannot love one another, love education, but don't have a secure environment. So he stood for peace as well, and at the same time to ensure that we take care of the environment by planting trees. So yes, his legacy is very strong, and you must be able to live that legacy.
Were you able to interact with him during his era?
No, I was not able to interact with him at personal level. No, I was not able to.
Thank you very much. Well, that is the government spokesperson, Colonel retired Cyrus Oguna, just briefing us on the current situation here at the Kabarak grounds, telling us that security is well taken care of here, telling Kenyans also to cooperate with security officers here. And given that at the moment here at the Kabarak grounds, about 30,000 people are expected to come and be part of this historic event. But at the burial site, not everyone will be allowed to access the places. It's very restricted. Well, we continue to follow up on these proceedings, given that Mzee Daniel Moi was the second president of the Republic of Kenya, and today is a very historic day since it's the day that he will be laid to rest, having served this country for about 24 years, 4 months and 8 days. Apart from that, he had also served as a member of parliament for over 47 years, having also served at the Legislature and also as a member of parliament for Baringo Central. Remember, he also served as the vice president of this country, the third vice president of this country after Jaramogi Oginga Odinga and Joseph Murumbi. Well, this is a very special event or special ceremony being granted to the late Daniel Moi, given that he is the 5th person to be accorded such a state funeral after the first president of Kenya, Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, who died in August 1978. And then we had Kijana Wamalwa, who passed away in 2003. And then we had Wangari Maathai, who passed in 2011. And we also had the wife of the third president of Kenya, Lucy Kibaki, who passed away in 2016. These are just some of the people who were accorded this kind of state funeral, whereby he will be accorded military honors, given that the military took over the whole functions of the preparations for the burial ever since the passing of the second president of Kenya, Mzee Daniel Moi, who passed away on the 4th of February. Well, we are still here at the Kabarak grounds. We're still following up on all the proceedings that are taking place. Currently, a number of choirs are on air, just entertaining some of the Kenyans who have already arrived here at the Kabarak grounds. We've also been able to see a number of school-going children who have arrived here, given that one of the legacies of the late Mzee Daniel Moi was education, whereby he's hailed for having promoted education in different parts of the country, especially the girl child education, giving lots of people in the country an opportunity to go to school and also go to university. It is a momentous occasion. As you've heard from the government spokesperson, the head of state, President Uhuru Kenyatta, is expected here to come also and grace the occasion. Also, the family members will be here, the children of the late Mzee Daniel Moi, the grandchildren, and also family and friends will be here at this event. We will also be able to follow up on the tributes that will be given, given that the event was scheduled to begin at 8 a.m. and at around 10 a.m. to about 11, we're supposed to have the first reading, the second reading, later on the eulogy, and also a poem from one of his grandchildren. Well, the tributes are expected to end at around 12:15. We hope that will be the time that it will end. And later on, Mzee Daniel Moi will be taken to his Kabarak home, whereby he will be laid to rest. Back to you in studio, Catherine. In case of any other upcoming events, we'll be able to update you. I'm Serafina Robi.
course, Sarafina Robi, our reporter, who is currently at the Kabarak University grounds, the venue where the final funeral service will be held. Speaking to the government spokesman, retired Colonel Cyrus Oguna, just giving an update of what is expected to transpire this morning. He's just pointed out that at least for the next 2 hours there will be a funeral service. That is the body of the late retired President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi has just arrived at the Kabarak University grounds. This, of course, will set the pace for what will happen this morning. Up next will be a funeral service that will be taking place for at least 2 hours. Then he went ahead to say that after that, the mourners will move to the burial site, just pointing out that, of course, the space within that burial site is limited, therefore they will not be able to take on everyone. It will be restricted to just a few leaders, the family as well, who will have an opportunity to be at the burial site, which will be happening at around 11 a.m., after 11 a.m., I presume, because if the service is taking 2 hours, yeah, it's about midday, give or take. That is when they will be moving to the burial site, and that will be marking the end of this particular event that started as early as 4 a.m. when Kenyans began to stream into the Kabarak University grounds, and the body left Nairobi at about 7:45. It landed at the Kabarak University, rather Kabarak airstrip, at around 8:45, sorry, and it has been carted slowly to Kabarak University grounds where the ceremony will be taking place. All this being led by the military. As you can see from those pictures there, an exercise that has been very precise in terms of timing. Nothing has been off so far, so we expect that the program will flow as per the schedule that was set out. And of course, the Colonel, retired Colonel Oguna, just pointing out that at this particular event, something that Matsanga, you had highlighted, that we expect a 19-gun salute in honor of the late retired president, all the honors that come with having been at the military, where he was the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. So it is an event that has been flawless. Leaders have gathered at this particular venue just to be able to be part of history as they bid the final farewell to the late retired President Daniel Arap Moi. So a lot has happened this morning. It's just almost 9:30, but already the grounds are full. We're just waiting for President Uhuru Kenyatta to be joining in as well. He will be coming with leaders from across the globe, not just in Kenya, given that the late Moi was known for his passion for foreign policy, his passion for bringing the African continent together and working together with the Kenyan people. And I think that will mark our end in studio this morning, gentlemen. So I'll just give you, 30 seconds to give your parting shot as we prepare to hand over to Nancy of Kware, who is on standby. What would be your parting shot, as we finally bid goodbye to the late retired president?
Peace, love, and unity. Let's embrace a philosophy that is value-based, that strengthens our society and coexistence, and above all, the fear of God. That we will fear God, and honor one another.
Okay.
Yes.
Peace, love, and unity. Matsanga.
My hope and my prayer is Kenya unites. Kenya follows the unity of purpose.
Yes.
The only thing that can keep Kenya together is unity of purpose. Let them work on the modalities. Let them put the framework of uniting every Kenyan. And I thank President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Amolo Odinga for having started that journey.
Okay.
Let them embrace everybody. Let them bring people towards that unity of purpose.
All right.
To follow the Nyayo philosophy.
Follow his footsteps. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. This is where we put a cap on it in studio. Of course, I've been talking to Bishop James Murunga from the Evangelical Association of Kenya, as well as David Matsanga, who is the chairperson of the Pan-African forum as we eulogize the late retired President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi, where the service is beginning in Kabarak University grounds. We have our reporter there, Edward Kabasa, who I will now be handing over to him. But when you come back to studio, you will be joined by Nancy Okwari. My name is Katrina Achieng'a. Thank you for watching. Good morning.